Hi everyone, this video is about the evolution of Nintendo's consoles over the years. I will put a focus on interesting trivia and tech specs. It will skip over a few consoles for a couple of reasons. If the console was the Virtual Boy, I will skip it. And if the console is just a remake of a console, I will also skip it. Hopefully you find this interesting. On with the video! Although the Game & Watch was a very primitive device, it is very hard to emulate. This is because of multiple reasons. First of all, the Game & Watch is a line of products, each containing different hardware. Second, to emulate the screen, you must trace a real Game & Watch's screen and then put that into a high-quality SVG. Finally, you need to rip the ROM, which is a very hard process involving decapping a chip, which will damage the game permanently. Even though it was a huge task, Game & Watch emulation was implemented in MAME. The Nintendo Entertainment System was a major stepping stone for Nintendo, as it provided them with the leverage to enter the video game market. Nintendo's plan was to underprice the consoles and make money back on the games. As we know now, this idea worked wonderfully. Even though the NES was underpowered for the time, it was able to gain popularity with a great lineup of games and stellar marketing. Nintendo's Game Boy was their second ever handheld console, if you count the Game & Watch as a console. It came with Tetris packed in, which turned out to be a very smart move for Nintendo. Tetris was, and still is, an extremely popular game, and gave the Game Boy an extra boost in popularity. The Game Boy and Game Boy Color combined have sold 118.69 million copies worldwide. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System was the successor to the NES. It was Nintendo's first 16-bit console. The SNES was able to stay afloat in the 32-bit era via the use of expansion chips built into the game cartridges. Some notable examples were the Super FX chip, which was used in Star Fox. It would allow the SNES to display 3D graphics by letting the chip do the calculations and hand them off to the SNES, which would then display them on screen. The Nintendo 64 was Nintendo's first console to have built-in 3D graphics. Unlike the Super FX chip, which is built into the cartridge, the N64 was able to do 3D out of the box. Sadly for developers, it was notoriously hard to program for. According to Wikipedia, as the Nintendo 64 reached the end of its life cycle, hardware development chief Genyo Takeda referred to its programming challenges using the word
反省
meaning reflective regret in Japanese. The Game Boy Color was released by Nintendo as a stopgap measure until the Game Boy Advance was released. It had full backwards compatibility with the original Game Boy and would even give them color by reassigning the palette. It was only discontinued after the Game Boy Advance SP was released, forcing it to compete with the Game Boy Advance. With the Game Boy Color released, Nintendo got to work on the Game Boy Advance. The GBA's case was designed by French designer Gwenaël Nicolas under his company Curiosity Inc. The hardware was designed to be similar in power to the SNES, which made porting games easier. Some of my favorite games were made for the GBA. It has gone on to sell 81.51 million consoles worldwide. Nintendo's GameCube was their second 3D video game console. It was significantly more powerful than the N64, containing a custom GPU known as the ATI Flipper. The GameCube was originally codenamed Dolphin, which can be found in many games. For example, Super Mario Sunshine takes place on an island named Isle Delfino. Get it? It was also Nintendo's first console to use an optical disc, not counting the 64 disk drive. The GameCube was also their first console to have a system menu. The Nintendo DS was the successor to the Game Boy line of products. The DS had two screens, one of which was a touchscreen. It contained two CPUs, the ARM 946E-S and the ARM 7 TDMI. The latter was used for background processes and backwards compatibility with the Game Boy Advance. It also had Wi-Fi capabilities, which were used in Nintendo's service known as Nintendo Wi-Fi Connection. The DS Lite was an improved version of the original DS. It was designed to be much lighter than the original DS. It also had a brighter screen, longer stylus, and longer lasting battery. Other than that, the DS Lite is nearly the same. When the Wii was being created, Nintendo was trying to appeal to a more casual demographic. This can be seen in things like the Wii message board. Furthermore, the Wii Remote was designed to be more like a TV remote. Making the Wii like this meant that Nintendo was able to make games like Wii Fit and Wii Sports. Somewhat ironically, the Wii is mainly an overclocked GameCube. The Wii has gone on to sell 101.63 million consoles worldwide. The DSi was the successor to the DS Lite, but I personally consider it to be closer to the 3DS. It came with a vastly improved system menu, downloadable games, and 2 cameras. Nintendo removed the backwards compatibility with the Game Boy Advance to improve portability. They later released an improved version of the DSi called the DSi XL. The 3DS was Nintendo's first console with a 3D screen built in. Nintendo had previously wanted to do 3D, but found it to be too expensive. They had actually built true 3D functionality in the GameCube, but it required a special screen to use. In true Nintendo tradition, the security was able to be cracked in a couple of years. Oh, poor Wii U. The Wii U was a great console with abysmal marketing. Having to live up to the Wii didn't help either. It was only able to sell an abysmally small 13.56 million consoles. You might think this is a large amount, but considering that the Nintendo Switch sold 32.27 million consoles, it's tiny. There's really not much to say about the 2DS. It's just a 3DS without the 3D screen. The new 3DS was an improved version of the 3DS. It had a tiny little nub known as the C-Stick, more RAM, NFC capabilities, and an SD card slot. It also improved the 3D effect by using cameras to find where a person's face is, and then adjusting the effect to suit their position. It also added 2 new shoulder buttons onto the back of the console. Overall, the new 3DS was received fairly well by critics. If the Wii U was a great console, the Nintendo Switch is an amazing console. It improved on the Wii U in every way possible. It's a mashup of the 3DS and the Wii U. With a wonderful launch lineup including The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, the Nintendo Switch is a must-have. Wait, did I just do Nintendo's marketing for them? Well then, darn it.